Hello, YouTube. I'm Vince White. I'm an employment attorney, and we are talking about service animals today because I recently had a conversation with someone who I will not identify and who I will include no identifying characteristics of in this conversation. And that individual said some things about service animals that were true, and some of which I disagreed with, and I was wrong. And that individual also said a few things about service animals that are just blanketly not true in New York State. Um, and I thought, you know what? I got to own it. I was wrong about a couple things. So I'm going to make a video giving the actual real of the service animals in New York State and under the ADA. Now, in New York State, it's important to note that although the New York State laws don't always go quite as far as the federal laws, they also sometimes go a little bit further. So there's sometimes extra protections and sometimes less protections. But as a functional matter, when you're in New York State, you have to comply with both the federal laws and the state laws. So the portions where New York State doesn't go quite as far as the protections the federal law offers are kind of meaningless because you still have to comply with the federal law. So it's kind of irrelevant, right? It's kind of weird that they would write a law that was less than the federal law, which I think came first, frankly, knowing that the things they were offering less protection on were meaningless, irrelevant, because you still have to comply with the federal law. Odd quirk of our system, but let's get down to it. So, and this is going to probably be a little bit of a long one, and you're probably not going to want to watch it unless you actually care about service animals or emotional support animals or companion animals, right? There's a lot of different classifications. So, first and foremost, we'll give the definition of what a service animal is here. And there's a couple different terms. So, New York civil rights law requires all public facilities to allow guide dogs, service dogs, and hearing dogs. A service dog is, generally speaking, a dog that has been or is being trained to work or perform tasks for a person with a disability, including psychiatric disabilities. Key. All right. Now, that term would, of course, include guide dogs, which are animals that help people who cannot see, and hearing dogs, which are dogs that help people who cannot hear, or at least not hear well. Now, the New York law applies only to dogs. Very key. The New York law applies only to dogs. There are other service animals that provide very real services, but the New York law is only dogs, not other animals. The Americans with Disabilities Act, the federal law, on the other hand, defines a service animal about the same way: a dog that is individually trained to perform tasks or do work for the benefit of a person with a disability. Now, and this is a fun note. In some cases, under the federal law, a miniature horse may also qualify as a service animal under the ADA. Fascinating. What a note they provided us. That I would not have known that. So, under the federal law, it doesn't just have to be a dog, although the definition does kind of specify dogs. Interesting. The tasks or work the animal does must be directly related to the person's disability. Now, the ADA and the New York statute both do not include emotional support animals. Now, there has been a bit of a kerfuffle, for lack of a better term, about emotional support animals. There were some rules of the FAA and people bringing animals in airlines, and like some asshole brought a peacock in an airline, or maybe that was an urban legend. I don't know. I saw a news story about it, and the FAA has addressed that sort of thing pretty extensively. So that's meaningful. And you know, I don't know what a peacock can and cannot do, but I suspect it maybe cannot provide a service to a person with a disability. I think their brains are about the size of a chicken brain, right? Like that, right? So what's that animal really doing for you? I can see how it would emotionally support you, but again, emotional support animals not covered under the federal or the New York State law. And the FAA has done a great deal in terms of flying with animals to tighten those definitions. There's been a lot of issues. And emotional support animals are animals that provide a sense of safety, companionship, or comfort to those with psychiatric or emotional disabilities or conditions. Now, that's weird, right? Because we have the idea of a service animal under federal law can be something besides a dog. It seems, right? Horses are included, and if you can have a horse, maybe you can have something else. But I guess here's how they handle this, right? Because you have people with mental disabilities who may need animals to perform services for them. And you could make an argument that services can be giving you that sense of safety or emotional support. And here's how they deal with it under the ADA, the federal law. Although emotional support animals often have a therapeutic benefit, they are not trained to perform a specific task for their handlers. Fascinating distinction. Kind of a weird line in the sand there. Although, I mean, I get it. We can't have, animals in all places. Now, under the ADA and New York law, public accommodations, so any public venue, museums, movie theaters, stuff like that, they're not allowed to admit emotional support animals. Only service dogs. Which they make the note still includes psychiatric service dogs, and I'm going to click through to see what's the deal with that. Psychiatric service dogs are classified as service dogs that provide assistance to people with psychiatric disabilities, such as severe depression, anxiety, and post-traumatic stress disorder. And they give examples of specific tasks. Providing safety checks or room searches for individuals with PTSD. That is really specific and really makes sense to me. Blocking persons in dissociative episodes from wandering into danger. Oh, interesting. So if you're disassociating, which is a clinical term that I am probably not qualified to define, and I'm not going to because I fear I might be wrong, that the animal can sequester you, can kind of keep you in place, keep you from harming yourself to some extent. Or physically preventing or interrupting impulsive or destructive behaviors, such as self-mutilation. And now you can kind of see how they're drawing that line between an emotional support animal. Oh, you make me feel better. Oh, which I'm not mocking that. That is valuable. It's also not protected to the same level. These animals are doing specific things. They have been trained to a specific skill set. It's not the same as an emotional support animal. And we have that distinction, right? And it's nice that we have that distinction because one's allowed and one's not. Now, we can talk about what is and is not in a public accommodation, but for our purposes today, public places where people go and they're not trespassing. It's not that broad, but it's kind of that broad, and that's going to get us through the rest of this video. I don't want to make this video 20 minutes long. Now, if your service animal poses a threat, that's no longer reasonable, and they can revoke that accommodation, right? If the dog is growling or lunging at people, we get it. It's a service animal and you need it, but that dog's got to go. We can't have it growling and lunging at people, right? And this is key. And this is something I was wrong about and right about to a different degree at the same time. So one of the things we were chatting about yesterday was they can't ask you for documentation for your service animal. That is what the individual said, and the individual is correct, although I said that's not true. And I was wrong. But there's like a caveat here. You can't be required under the New York law to put forth a license or a document or other proof that your animal is a service animal. But public accommodation venues are allowed to ask you if your dog is a service animal. And, I mean, they're not allowed to charge you anything extra, but it's notable they can ask you. And if you lie, that's a pretty sizable problem for you. If you lie and say that a service animal, you say that your non-service animal is a service animal, like, it could get serious for you pretty quick. So I would not recommend that. Yeah, they can't, demand to see your papers, right? We're not in Nazi Germany. We must see our papers. That was the worst German accent. Wow, I should probably delete this video. I'm not going to, just because I want you to see my shame. But, like, we can't demand to see people's papers, right? But we can say, hey, that animal of yours, that dog, service animal? Yeah? Okay, you're good to go. No? You got to go. You can't be in here, all right? That's the breakdown. I'll link the article by Nolo on this topic because you may want to do further reading. And now, I know every time I do a service animal or an emotional support animal video, people post wild things. People get super angry and tell me how their emotional support ferret is going to crawl in my body and eat my liver, and I'll die. And they're going to be glad, and they're going to laugh. Okay, it's fine. I mean, listen, you can know the law or not know the law. I'm telling you what the law is. I'm not telling you what the law should be. I don't care if you're mad. I don't care if you're sad. I'm glad you're informed. You should hit the not like button on the video. Hit it. Hit it now. You can do it. And then leave a comment and tell me how horrible I am and how I'm going to die screaming as your ferret murders me. That would be lovely. And I will comment. I will respond to your comment and we'll have a lovely conversation. It will be fun for all. But again, I'm not telling you what the law should be. I'm not telling you what your rights should be. I'm not telling you what the future holds. I'm not telling you you're a jerk. I'm telling you this is the current state of the law, and you can comply or not. You're free to do whatever you like. There's consequences, though. And I wish you the best. I really do. Like and subscribe. It helps me to help more people just like you. Comment down below. I'm looking forward to your ferrety rage.